Okay, here we go with our second practice problem. Now, in this problem, we've got Marilyn, and she's using paint to make some signs for redwood. The last problem, Matai was making vegetable soup. Even though one is a soup problem and one is a paint problem, they're really the same type of ratio problem. They're basically a recipe, whether the recipe is for soup, or the recipe is for paint, or the recipe is for concrete, or the recipe has ribbons. They're all just some kind of a recipe. They've got ingredients, which are parts, and you're using those parts with a whole that they give you the first time, and then to figure out how many parts you need if the whole changes. So here we go. Marilyn used 21 gallons of paint to paint some signs at redwood. The signs require 14 gallons of blue paint and 7 gallons of white paint. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down that what Marilyn has is 14 gallons of blue plus 7 gallons of white equal 21 gallons of paint altogether. So we're going to build two ratios. We're going to build a ratio of the blue paint to the total, and we're going to build a ratio of the white paint pardon me, to the total. So the blue paint to the total is 14 gallons of blue for the total of 21 gallons of paint. So if you're going to have a total of 21, 14 of it will be blue. On the white paint, 7 gallons of white paint are used if your total is 21. Once again, the way to check these to see did I come up with the right starting ratios are to add them together, and they need to equal some big one. It doesn't matter what the big one is. In this case, it's 21 over 21. In the last problem, it was 36 over 36. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it ends up being a big one. Now, as I said on the problem before, the problem where you were doing the soup, if it were me, I would always simplify these ratios. 7 goes into 14 twice, 7 goes into 21 3 times. For the white, 7 goes into 7 once, 7 goes into 21 3 times. I can check those ratios doing the very same thing. I can add them together. In this case, you get 3 over 3. There's your big one. It doesn't matter what the big one is, as long as you get a big one. Simplifying the ratios is optional. If you prefer to leave it with the original ratios, that's fine. I always find it's easier to work with the simplified ratios. So now we're going to figure out how many gallons of blue paint Marilyn will need if her total is 30. That's what this question asks us. If we look at A, it says the school decides to pay Marilyn to paint more signs with the same design. If she needs 30 gallons altogether to paint the new signs, how many gallons of blue paint will she need? So we need to take the ratio that we just had for the blue. So blue to the total. Our simplified ratio was 2 to 3. You could use 14 to 21 if you want to do that. I think it makes it more difficult, but that's up to you. 2 to 3. We have some unknown number of blue paint. How many gallons of blue paint? So the X is where the blue paint is, and the new total is 30 gallons. Two ways to solve this. We'll do it with cross multiplying, where we do 3 times X and 2 times 30. So 2 times 30 equals 3 times X. 2 times 30 is 60. 3 times X is 3X. Divide everything by the coefficient. We know we picked the right number again because we get 1 right there. 60 divided by 3 is 20, and so 20 is the value of X. How many gallons of blue paint will she need? She will need 20 gallons of blue paint. The other way that we could have solved it, and it's the way that I would choose to solve it, is I would look first to see, when I write that ratio, 2 to 3, and X to 30, is there a big 1 that I can multiply to get x? Well, since 3 times 10 gives 30, then my big 1 would be 10 over 10, and 10 times 2 is 20, and that's the same 20 we had before. Remember, it doesn't matter how you do that part, whether you use the cross multiplication or you use the finding a big 1 to get the equivalent ratios. Either way, you have to get the same answer. If you do it 2 different ways and get 2 different answers, then there's a problem. All right, last step is the second question. How many gallons of white paint will Marilyn need for the new signs? And there are a couple of ways we can find this. Probably the most straightforward way is to say, well, she needs 30 gallons altogether. She just put in 20 gallons of blue. That leaves 10 gallons. She will need 10 gallons of the white paint. So that's her final answer for white paint. 20 gallons was her final answer for blue paint. Another way to do it is to take this ratio. We're looking way over back on the side here. Take this ratio for white. So we had the white over the total. That was 1 to 3. Our other ratio is x to 30. I would take that and I would use the idea of the big 1. So I would multiply this by 10 over 10. Notice, same big 1 that we had over here. That won't change. So we had 3 and 30. We had 3 and 30. Multiply it out. 10 times 3 is 30. 10 times 1 is 10. And that takes us right back to that answer. So a couple different ways to find that or to verify your answer. All right, so review this video if you need to, and then you'll be moving on to the next one. In the next video, Paula's going to make Rocky Road. She's going to use chocolate. She's going to use marshmallows. Those are the ingredients. It's another recipe problem.